What's the creepiest thing you've seen, but no one believes you? Part 4. In the same room of my old house, I've seen a convulsed face floating outside my window. My brother has also seen it too. I saw the same face over a number of periods, and it would do stuff like smile and float closer to me and further from the glass. Our youngest brother, a few years later, complained that he didn't want to play with the boy in his room anymore as he was getting too much blood on his toys. It was the same room. My mum runs an antique business and has for years. I've worked with her on various occasions, often changing between working the shop with her and doing construction with my dad. For a while, she ran her business a few towns over with my best friend's dad, and the business was okay, but didn't make enough to support the both of them. Well, a few years back, she sold her ownership to him and just boxed up some of her things from the shop to bring home. My dad, however, surprised her and rented her a building in our hometown so she could run her own shop. She quickly brought everything there and began unpacking. While unpacking, I found an old Ouija board from an estate sale she had bought out. I showed her, we joked about the creepiness of it, and she said when she'd gotten it, her co-worker had jokingly played with it to tease her. Our family isn't super religious, but we ain't about tempting demons. She thought he'd thrown it away, but apparently he'd snuck it into her stuff as a final prank. So we laughed, and she tossed it in the garbage pile. A few months later, I was running the front desk when she brought a box of antiques to price down from the attic. We began going through it, and what happened to be in the bottom of the box? The Ouija board, still in its cardboard case, planchette underneath. I recognized it as the same one. The box had the same tears and dents, I remembered. Mum and I looked at each other, and after much debating, threw it away. Again. Well, in about 2017, Mum stopped opening the shop. We weren't making too much while it was open, and instead started buying out estate sales, or helping them run it, then buying what was left over to take to the shop, which we still owned. It became a storage house for antiques she hoped to sell one day. This last week, May 20th I believe, she asked me to help buckle down and clear out some damaged junk from the shop. We began going through boxes and boxes, moving them to a trailer to take to a garage sale location. As I was shuffling a box through to the back area to load it, I heard my mother shout, "No fucking way." I thought maybe she'd been bitten by a spider or found something valuable, so I set the box down and rushed back to her. What I saw sent a chill down my spine. In the back room where she was, the back wall was lined with shelves, and there were clothing racks and boxes of clothes stacked in front of it. After moving the boxes, the shelves were in clear view. Most were cluttered with knickknacks or such, but on the bottom shelf, centered and all alone, there sat a familiar board game-sized cardboard box. We stared at it, then each other. Neither of us said a word. We pulled it out, and sure enough, it was the same damned box. The corners were torn, the sides were scratched, same one. I'd seen it thrown out twice before, yet here it was. We tried to tell my dad, but he isn't superstitious. My brother didn't believe us. They assumed it's a separate game, and part of me wants to think so too, but I've seen that box too closely, too many times. I know it's the same one. I once encountered what I can only think of to be a Skinwalker. Me and a friend were outside in a small town in Germany where my friend lived. It was past 11 p.m. on a summer evening. He would invite me for a sleepover on the 13th of August every year. Always was pretty normal, and we slept in a tent in his garden. This evening, we decided to head to the town's playground and talk about stuff and do some stupid shit like, doorbell ditching. Right behind the playground there was a small forest in front of a big cornfield. So after 20 minutes at the playground, we hear a really loud scream. Not anything human or anything that sounds like an animal. It came from the woods. We turned around and saw something glowing brightly on the ground, but it was a sphere and seemed almost liquid. We heard something running into the cornfield with fast, big and light steps. but suddenly the steps changed to a heavy, slow trampling and something growled deeply. My friend and I tried to stay as quiet as possible, not making a sound for the next 100 meters. Then we ran off as fast as we could. I was paranoid the whole way back to his house and felt like someone was watching us. We instantly got into our tent, went back at his home, staying quiet and watching Star Wars with headphones in one ear so we could hear anything approaching. The ground was covered with leaves and you could hear anything that stepped onto it. We fell asleep at around 1 a.m. At 3 a.m. I was woken to something walking in his backyard. I heard that it was bigger, but very fast. I silently woke my friend up and we both listened to this creature walking around in his backyard. It suddenly stopped and we heard heavy, thin breathing, like an old woman grasping for air. We were both extremely terrified. Then again, the creature started walking around, but its steps turned heavy, like a bear or something. That's when all sounds ceased for 15 seconds, followed by light, fast steps running away into the fields next to his house, and a high-pitched screech. Neither his nor my parents ever believed us. We visited the playground the next day to discover a few dead birds and a piece of wood, still glimmering like a campfire that was left behind over the night, and the exact spot where the sphere was. So I was getting onto the elevator in the metro. To get from the train platform to the main platform with the turnstiles and the exit, you have to take the elevator. So I got on with this older guy, it was just us two. And I glanced over and this guy was watching me, pointedly. And he was smiling but not in a nice, welcoming way. You know, in the cliche creepypastas where they talk about monsters with unnaturally wide smiles? That's exactly the kind of smile this guy had. Anyway, I looked away from him because I thought he was just crazy or something. But out the corner of my eye, I saw him making these weird gestures all over his chest. It almost looked like he was making the sign of the cross or something. Finally, the elevator doors opened and we both got off and walked toward the turnstiles. I swiped my card to exit and turned around to see if the dude was following me. And he was gone. There was nowhere else he could have gone. We were at the exit for the station, unless he turned back, ran and got on another elevator in about 4 seconds. I don't know where the fuck he went. Anyway, I'm from a small town and sometimes weird things happen in the city that I don't quite understand, but I just chalk it up to me being practically a redneck. But this was really out there, and it's been bothering me. We had this punching bag on the ground, not hanging in the air, that we took the bag off of, leaving only the thing that brings the punching bag back to you. We were wondering what to do with it. The next few days, my mum was doing some arts and crafts projects. She was big on it lately, and made this dragon head. She called it George, and hung it on the punching bag thing. When I slept, it was directly in my eyesight if I looked through my bedroom door. Sometimes, when I was having trouble sleeping, I could swear that the head turned 90 degrees to look directly at me. When I blinked, it was back to normal. This happened many times over the course of 4 years before George started falling apart. I was happy, but my mum was sad. Even when I told her what I saw, she thought I was just having bad dreams, but I'm sure that dragon head was looking straight at me. 2 stories here, both about my grandma. Near the end, my grandma had trouble controlling her bowels. She wore a diaper and would typically go all over the toilet. After she passed in the house under professional care. My family cleaned out the house, took the wallpaper down, cleaned the place spotless, because we were going to move in the next month or 2. About a week after we finished cleaning, we went back to make sure everything was good. We got to the bathroom my grandma used, and there was literal shit everywhere. The walls, the ceiling, behind the shower curtain, literally the entire bathroom was essentially coated. Freaked me out because I knew it had to be my grandma. No burst pipes or anything wrong with the plumbing. The second story. We ended up moving in after the situation. My parents were out of town, so my brother and I had some friends over. We were in the basement playing Magic the Gathering when I went upstairs to grab everyone drinks. In line of sight from the fridge was the TV in our family room. Out of nowhere, the TV turns on full volume to the show The Commissioner, which was my grandma's favourite show. She was also hard of hearing, so it being at full volume was normal for her. I freaked the fuck out and ran into the basement to get my brother. We go upstairs and the TV is off, but the recliner is reclined. I shouldn't have been scared because it had to be my grandma, but I was young. We lived in that house a few more years and a few other things happened, but those two stick out because they were so close to when she died.